The Rottweiler, power forged on ancient trade roads. They were not bred in royal estates or frozen tundras. They were shaped by marching legions and moving cattle, and their strength was measured in miles, not moments. To understand the Rottweiler, we must travel back nearly 2,000 years to the expanding frontier of the Roman Empire, where disciplined armies moved across Europe accompanied not only by soldiers and weapons, but by livestock that fed entire legions during long campaigns through unfamiliar territory. These armies required dogs capable of driving and guarding cattle over vast distances, protecting valuable resources from theft, predators, and chaos that followed any large-scale military movement. The early Mastiff-type dogs that accompanied Roman troops were not decorative companions. They were working animals built for endurance, authority, and control under pressure. As Roman forces moved through what is now southern Germany, particularly near the town of Rottweil, these cattle-driving dogs remained behind when legions withdrew, gradually integrating with local canine populations and adapting to the needs of emerging trade communities. Rottweil became an important livestock market and trading center during the Middle Ages, and the dogs that descended from Roman drover lines found renewed purpose herding cattle to market and guarding money pouches tied around their necks by butchers who trusted them more than human security. These dogs earned the name Rottweiler Metzgerhund, meaning the butcher's dog of Rottweil. Their role required a precise blend of traits. They had to move stubborn cattle without reckless aggression. They had to deter thieves through presence alone, yet remain controllable in crowded market environments. They needed physical strength to manage livestock, stamina to travel long distances, and psychological steadiness to differentiate between routine bustle and genuine threat. The Rottweiler's broad chest, powerful neck, and muscular build reflect centuries of selection for functional strength rather than aesthetic exaggeration. Its black coat with distinct rust markings became standardized over time, but the core emphasis remained performance. As industrialization reduced the need for cattle-driving dogs in the 19th century, the Rottweiler faced potential decline, much like other working breeds whose original purposes were disappearing. But a new chapter emerged. Police and military organizations recognized the breed's natural guarding instinct, trainability, and composed demeanor under pressure. In the early 20th century, Rottweilers were officially recognized as police dogs in Germany, valued for their reliability and courage without unnecessary volatility. Unlike some protection breeds that rely heavily on sharp reactivity, the Rottweiler's strength lies in calm confidence. It does not posture without reason. It assesses. It waits. And when action becomes necessary, it moves with decisive authority. This measured temperament, rooted in centuries of cattle management and market guarding, distinguishes the Rottweiler from breeds shaped primarily for high-drive sport or rapid response roles. Yet with strength comes perception. As Rottweilers entered modern urban environments, their imposing appearance and protective instincts attracted admiration from some and fear from others. Media portrayals often amplify the image of the Rottweiler as inherently dangerous, overlooking the disciplined breeding and structured training required to produce stable individuals. But the Rottweiler's story is not one of uncontrolled aggression. It is one of responsibility. It is a breed forged by necessity on ancient trade roads, refined through livestock markets, and adapted for structured protection in evolving societies. Its power was never meant to exist without guidance. Its confidence was never meant to exist without clarity. And as the modern world navigates shifting ideas about security, strength, and companionship, the Rottweiler stands at a crossroads between reputation and reality. To understand where it goes next, we must look deeper into how controlled power becomes either guardian or liability, depending on the hands that shape it. As the Rottweiler transitioned from medieval cattle roots to structured police and military service in the early 20th century, its identity as a working guardian became formalized under organized training systems that tested not only physical strength, but nerve stability, obedience, and emotional control in environments filled with unpredictability and human complexity. In livestock markets, the Rottweiler had already learned to operate amid noise, movement, and tension, guiding heavy cattle through narrow streets without escalating into chaos, holding ground when pressure increased, yet remaining composed when no threat was present. This early foundation proved invaluable when law enforcement agencies began evaluating breeds for patrol work, crowd control, and property protection. The Rottweiler's muscular build provided deterrence, but deterrence alone was never sufficient. A police dog required clarity of mind. It needed to engage only when commanded, to release instantly, and to remain neutral in situations where intimidation alone resolved potential conflict. This demand reinforced selective breeding for controlled temperament rather than uncontrolled aggression. However, as the breed gained visibility beyond professional circles, it entered civilian homes where its imposing appearance and reputation for loyalty attracted individuals seeking security. The Rottweiler's confidence, once honed for managing livestock and guarding currency, translated naturally into protective behavior toward family and territory. Yet the nuance of that behavior depended heavily on socialization and leadership. A well-bred, properly raised Rottweiler typically displays steady composure around familiar people, measured curiosity towards strangers, and watchful restraint rather than impulsive reactivity. But without structured exposure to diverse environments during critical developmental stages, the same protective instinct can narrow into suspicion, especially in settings lacking clear guidance. The breed's physical presence amplifies perception. Broad head, powerful jaw, deep chest. These features communicate strength before the dog ever moves. In some regions, this presence has led to breed-specific legislation, restrictions rooted more in fear than in nuanced understanding of temperament and breeding quality. Media narratives often highlight isolated incidents without examining the environmental and training factors that influence canine behavior across all breeds. The Rottweiler's working heritage demands responsibility not only from breeders but from owners who must provide consistent training, firm yet fair boundaries, and regular engagement that channels energy constructively. Unlike high-strung breeds driven by constant motion, the Rottweiler often demonstrates a calm and baseline demeanor, conserving energy and observing before acting. This measured nature can make it an excellent family guardian when balanced correctly, but it also means that an activity paired with lack of mental stimulation may lead to boredom or territorial overemphasis. Health considerations also shape the breed's trajectory. Hip and elbow dysplasia, common among large working breeds, require careful orthopedic screening in breeding programs. Cardiac issues and certain cancers have been observed within the population, underscoring the importance of long-term genetic tracking and responsible pairing decisions. Because strength without structural integrity cannot endure. As urban living increases and property boundaries shrink, the Rottweiler's original role as cattle drover may feel distant, yet its instincts remain rooted in controlled guardianship. It was never bred to roam aimlessly. It was bred to stand the ground when necessary, to move with purpose, to assess before reacting. The tension now lies in aligning that heritage with modern expectations. Families seeking companionship must recognize that loyalty is intertwined with leadership. Communities evaluating breed safety must distinguish between irresponsible ownership and inherent temperament. The Rottweiler stands as a breed shaped by calmness, protection, and partnership over centuries. Its power was forged on ancient trade roads, refined in crowded markets, and disciplined through structured service roles. Whether that power remains balanced in contemporary society depends on how carefully its original blueprint is understood. The Rottweiler's true complexity reveals itself not in its size or strength, but in the tension between perception and reality that has followed the breed into the modern world. For centuries, this dog worked in plain sight. It moved cattle through narrow streets. It guarded butcher shops and market earnings. It stood beside police officers and soldiers with steady composure. Its power was functional, its presence purposeful. But in contemporary society, strength often invites misunderstanding. The Rottweiler's muscular frame and confident posture can trigger instinctive caution in those unfamiliar with its history, creating a narrative shaped more by image than by informed observation. And this is where the conflict deepens. A breed designed for controlled guardianship becomes vulnerable to misrepresentation when control is removed from the equation. In structured working programs, Rottweilers are evaluated for nerve stability, environmental soundness, and clear-headed responsiveness. They must tolerate loud noises, unpredictable movement, and close human interaction without defaulting to fear or impulsive aggression. Dogs that lack this stability are removed from breeding consideration in responsible programs. But outside disciplined systems, breeding decisions sometimes prioritize size, exaggerated head structure, or superficial traits without equal emphasis on temperament and health. When structure is divorced from stability, imbalance follows. The Rottweiler's protective instinct is deeply rooted. It was shaped over generations of guarding valuable livestock and currency, of standing ground against threat without constant instruction. Yet protection without socialization can harden into suspicion. Confidence without leadership can drift into dominance struggles. And a powerful dog without consistent training can become overwhelming rather than reassuring. This does not define the breed. It defines the consequences of misalignment. In homes where early social exposure is prioritized, where obedience training establishes clear communication, and where boundaries are firm yet fair, the Rottweiler often demonstrates remarkable steadiness. It bonds deeply with family members. It displays patience with children when properly introduced and supervised. It transitions from watchful guardian to relaxed companion within familiar environments. Its energy is not frantic. It is measured. But the margin for error narrows with power. A mismanaged small breed may cause nuisance. A mismanaged large guardian can cause serious harm. This reality amplifies public scrutiny and reinforces calls for regulation in certain regions. Breed-specific legislation often emerges from fear fueled by isolated incidents rather than comprehensive behavioral data. Yet such policies rarely address the core variables of responsible breeding, early development, and owner education. The Rottweiler stands at the center of this debate. Its history argues for disciplined capability. Its image invites caution. Its future depends on which narrative prevails. Health remains another axis of vulnerability. Large bone structure places stress on joints if weight is not carefully managed. Genetic predispositions require transparent health testing. Longevity cannot be sacrificed for exaggerated mass, because a guardian's strength must endure physically as well as behaviorally. The emotional peak of the Rottweiler's story lies in this fragile balance. A breed forged by ancient trade roads now navigates suburban sidewalks. A dog once trusted with valuable assets now carries the weight of public perception. Its power has not diminished. Its purpose has shifted. Whether that power remains disciplined or becomes distorted depends entirely on human stewardship. The Rottweiler was never meant to be reckless force. It was crafted to be controlled authority. And as society continues redefining security and companionship, the challenge is clear. Can we preserve calm strength without succumbing to fear or exaggeration? Or will misunderstanding reshape a breed that once stood as a model of measured guardianship? The Rottweiler's defining moment is not when it bares its teeth. It is when it does not. When it stands still, steady and grounded, assessing the world with calm certainty instead of reckless reaction. That restraint is the true measure of its strength. From Roman cattle drives to medieval butcher markets, from structured police service to modern family homes, the Rottweiler has always been shaped by responsibility. Its power was never ornamental, it was functional. It was meant to protect assets, maintain order, and move with purpose under human direction. And that purpose required clarity. A Rottweiler that reacts without thought cannot guard effectively. A Rottweiler that lacks confidence cannot deter. Balance has always been the foundation. Today, the breed stands at a crossroads defined less by ancient trade roads and more by public perception. Its muscular build and unwavering gaze communicate authority before it ever moves. In skilled hands, that authority becomes quiet assurance. In unprepared environments, it can become tension. The difference lies not in the breed's blueprint, but in how faithfully that blueprint is respected. Responsible breeding preserves nerve strength, health screening, and stable temperament as non-negotiable priorities. Responsible ownership reinforces structure, early socialization, and consistent leadership that channels instinct into reliability rather than volatility. Because Because the Rottweiler was engineered for partnership, not isolation. It thrives when integrated into family life with clear expectations and purposeful engagement. It falters when neglected, overconfined, or misrepresented as either inherently dangerous or effortlessly easy. The climax of this breed's journey is not about disproving fear. It is about reaffirming discipline. A well-bred, well-trained Rottweiler moves through the world with measured confidence. It observes without panic. It responds without chaos. It protects without unnecessary escalation. That composure is centuries in the making. It reflects Roman drovers guiding cattle across rough terrain, medieval butchers trusting a dog with their earnings, officers relying on calm strength in volatile moments. The Rottweiler's legacy is not aggression. It is controlled capability, and controlled capability requires stewardship. Health must remain central. Temperament must remain prioritized. Education must replace assumption. Because strength without understanding invites conflict. Strength guided by clarity builds trust. The Rottweiler does not ask to be softened into something it was never meant to be. It asks to be understood within the context that shaped it. Its broad chest carries history. Its steady gaze reflects intention. Its future depends on whether we preserve calm authority over exaggerated image.